Great. So, Austin, to wrap up, and we've talked a little bit about this, obviously, because how could you not? But AI, from your perspective in the world of analyst relations, kind of what are some of the big things you're seeing with AI? What tools are you using? Um, and AI is clearly disrupting everything and anything, including both of our worlds. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges and opportunities for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is trust. Like we've already seen analyst firms start to pump out a ton of content with AI. So like knowing what's credible. Um, so I think that will continue to be a challenge. But I think more than anything, like we've seen the profession really excel as a result of it. Like it's opened up a ton of new markets, a ton of new coverage, a ton of opportunities for vendors to crack through because of AI. And then from like a tooling perspective, like we're already doing things with like RFP automation. So taking all of these RFPs and using AI to implement there. We're seeing like sort of the rise of like Chat GPT search results and like sort of this new SEO. Like how does analyst relations play into that? Like we think it does. So there's some really interesting things. Like I like to think we've been ahead of it, but TBD on that, I guess.
Yeah, there's obviously so much. It's just really hard to keep up with that pace of change. But clearly
Yeah,
the change is here, and it's the
it,
more to come.
I was gonna add, and I think from like an analyst relations perspective as a whole, like, so I've talked a lot about Gartner Magic Quadrants, and like for those of you that know, like the process takes essentially an entire year, 6 months to sort of obtain all of the information about the report, and then it takes 6 months for them to write it, and they publish it on an annual schedule. Like the days of having an information that's now a year old are dying very quickly. Like so, I think we're seeing analyst firms have to adopt to like people want information and need information real time. There's no sort of like study period anymore. Like the days of taking months and months to write this really well crafted thought out research report, by the time you do, like you're going to look like a dinosaur. So that's the other big change that we've seen in the industry.
And I mean, sort of taking that into the future. I mean, what's stopping these companies from having, rather than having that as an annual moment, it's something that's live. It's actually changing in real time. You could go onto a website or go onto an AI and look at a dashboard, because obviously there's so much data
Right.
all updated in real time. Maybe the whole, in the future of these quadrants, maybe the sort of days of an annual report are long gone.
Yeah, no, like that's sort of what we're predicting, and I think we've already seen some of the firms start to do that,
Mhm.
where it's essentially a snapshot at all times of like where a certain vendor ranks based off, whatever algorithm they want it to be based on. So it's interesting, but at the end of the day, like people will still buy from people, at least we think, and the person that's writing the report still has all the information in their head, and like you want to talk to some human to sort of vet that out. So hopefully. We're hopeful that AI doesn't totally kill analyst relations, but
Yeah.
TBD.
And sort of in term, I mean, again, there's so many similarities here, and clearly the world of AI technology is hugely revolutionizing the world of journalism. It's obviously doing the same in the world of for analysts as well. Um, what kind of trends are you seeing amongst analysts themselves? I think you mentioned earlier about seeing more kind of people become consultants and sort of quit the big firms, presumably with great AI tools, and someone who's very senior and seasoned as an analyst. That's quite a powerful proposition, I would imagine.
Yeah, like we've seen a lot of, like you said, we've seen a lot of folks fracture and start to do their own thing and start to create their own content with sort of a new spin. I think one of the like areas that we've seen folks have more and more trouble with is like it's easier to get in content, but harder to amplify it. So like now that like it used to be, this report would come out annually, you would run whatever campaign and it would get a lot of clicks. It'd be a great sort of gated lead for you. Now it's sort of like easier to get it, but harder to get more and more clicks with all of the content out there. So I think that's one of the risks is like now you have more analysts writing more content, but like how does it actually rise above
Yeah.
the tide to be seen by people?
Yeah, and that's definitely the same in the world of PR. I mean, again, it's all this content, and as we're ultimately we're targeting human beings, and as humans, we only have so much capacity to take in information, let alone absorb information. So again, making sure that you've got something very clear that genuinely cuts through is really important. So, kind of final thoughts. I think we've covered so much ground in this conversation, and what has become really clear, I think, throughout is just how many similarities there are. And again, it's sort of a good
Yeah.
reminder that ultimately we're all in the same business of communications. It's albeit with different strategies or objectives or audiences, but there's so many similarities. If you would sort of and I think there'll be a lot of people listening to this who perhaps until now, hopefully, didn't really know too much about the world of analyst relations in PR. What are kind of three things that you would say, right, after this you should go and do, just to sort of build your knowledge and perhaps take forward some of the great advice you've given on the podcast today?
Yeah, I think step one is like, like I think it's like again a company goal of like what are you trying to achieve is understanding that, and then finding the analyst firm or firms that sort of align to that and have a conversation with them. Like maybe it's just a starting intro, but get your feet wet there. And I think too, like whether you're a PR person that has no AR resources, or maybe you do have an AR team, like I think it's worth at least a conversation. Like too often you get in your silo of like this is my workflow, but there's so many complements to it. Like it's such a unique world that you can learn um, to better help your role, and vice versa for AR. Like we should be talking to PR as well. And I think the last thing would be like think differently about like how you're doing your job. Like this is a unique angle, and I think these worlds are starting to mesh more and more. So I think it's smart to be dangerous on both sides as we see them start to merge.
Sounds great. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Austin, for being a fantastic guest. Some superb insights from the world of analyst relations. And yeah, thank you very much again.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Jason.